did listen to Absu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I listened to Absu. Now that you just started recording, I'll tell you that I listened to Absu.
And what did you think?
The name of the album. And I was shocked, actually, by how good it was.
I thought you'd like that one.
That's considered black metal.
Not really. They came out when they first came out. They were kind of a death metal-ish kind of sounding. They had a deep vocals, double bass, mid-tempo-ish. But they were Occult. But then they adopted like a definitely black metal vibe after that. But then really they were more of like a thrash band before it was all said and done, but with like kind of a blackened feel. But
that's exactly what I was going to say, because I mean, I don't know if this is insulting to him or not, but it reminded me of Slayer. Like it.
Oh, not at all.
Like I'm not saying it sounds like Slayer. Like I'm not saying they're like a copycat, but it kind of had that dark thrash.
So they're not like Slayer, but they are.
Yeah. So they have a Slayer vibe, like a dark thrash vibe to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. They've always been occults, like very extremely adept in the occult, in particular their drummer, proscriptor, Russ Gibbons.
Yeah.
And actually, it's funny that you made that comparison with Slayer, because that guy, Russ, who's kind of the mastermind of Absu, and he's the one still bringing them around on tour. The other guys are all gone, but he tried out to be Slayer's drummer some time ago.
Really?
Yeah, there's actually footage. If you look up on YouTube, it's proscriptor of Absu tries out for Slayer. It shows him and Carrie, and I can't remember if Hanneman was still around. I think he was, but they were playing Hell Awaits. And
really
he didn't
drummer.
He didn't take the gig. I'm not sure what happened, if they didn't want him or if he didn't want to do it, or it's a mystery as to why, but my guess would be he was probably like too fast for Slayer. So,
or maybe too cult, because I mean, it's
that
like
too.
one of those sort of things that turns out, even though Slayer really leaned into like the satanic imagery, kind of turns out that, Tom Araya is a Catholic, fairly like a practicing Catholic, which is fine,
Do you have proof of that?
Yeah, you can look up an interview on. There's actually a really good interview of Tom Araya with. It's a little kid interviewing him. Right? It's like this little 9-year-old kid is interviewing Tom Araya, and it's actually really sweet, like a sweet interview. But he gets pretty spiritual in there, talking to this little kid, but it was really. So he kind of I think he kind of goes over it in that interview. I think it's called Punk Kids or Little Punk Kids, interviewing Tom Araya. So it's like this little kid who interviews all these like death metal bands. It's pretty cool.
Would it be that maybe he was doing that just for the benefit of the kid, not to scare him?
Well, and there's another one in that metal, the Sam Dunn documentary, the one that's kind of people kind of shit on, but it's actually, I kind of feel bad for shitting on that him too much.
Now, why do people shit on him? What's the big deal?
I think it's because I think honestly, I think it sort of has to do with the fact that he's kind of like nowadays he's kind of gone like sort of kind of woke, kind of I don't know, just a little too. I don't know.
Like what?
He kind of got a little milquetoast, I think. But
He's an activist?
No, but just kind of like he just kind of got like really. It's almost like TMZ-ish, like his thing now. Almost like if.
What does that mean? TMZ?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like how to describe it. It's just kind of gotten like.
He's preachy, like holier than thou.
Kind of like imagine like a metal version of The View.
I can't imagine such a thing. That's terrible.
That's kind of the vibe I get from his station and stuff now. So, but I got to admit, like at the time that documentary came out, I thought it was actually really well done. I think a lot of people had a problem with his like the family tree chart he had.
Oh yeah, I mean there was a lot of stuff in there, but
where it's kind of he had like bands in categories that just didn't really make a lot of sense. You know, like I think the Scorpions might have been in power metal or something, and then I don't, I don't remember.
I have that DVD. It's been like years since I watched it, but I remember there was something else where that was in black metal and something that was black metal that was in thrash or something like that. It just didn't. I mean, it was a technicality, but
yeah, and I you can't really fault him because that whole thing is so convoluted, anyways. When you try to like, trace all the roots, the branches, and try to put everybody in the right categories, it just you're gonna fuck up eventually. But in the interview in that DVD where he's talking to Tom Araya, he's like he's talking about the song God Hates Us All. He's like, you have a song called God Hates Us All, yet you yourself are a Christian. And Tom Araya goes, yeah, I'm a Catholic. He says it very clearly. He's like, Catholic. And he's like, well, what do you, what are we supposed to think about, you having a song called God Hates Us All? He's like, listen, man. He's like, God doesn't hate. He doesn't hate us. It's just a really cool fucking title, though, So that's his kind of his thing about it.
Now, is that Tom just being flippant, or do you think he really?
No. I think he's being genuine about it, because he's kind of getting serious. He's like, and to me, he kind of hits a good point on dark music in general. Like why, and I think it's almost why most, like, when you run into like extreme metal musicians, like when you talk to them, they're always the sweetest people. It's getting in touch with, like, he kind of mentions in that interview, he's like, listen, he's like, you're just kind of holding up, you're exploring real aspects of society. Like, he's like, there's just certain things that are evil things to do, and it's almost like you have to know that it's there, right? And it's kind of a very Carl Jung sort of approach of like, Carl Jung has this concept of the shadow self, right? You might be familiar with it. It's basically, to me, like death metal and like dark extreme music, it's recognizing the fact that inside every one of us is the capacity to do just horrific things. We may think we're good people and everything like that, and we probably are good people. But if you don't recognize that there's like a monster that's in everybody that is capable of just doing just horrific, horrible things under the right triggers or certain circumstances, I think that's when you actually get dangerous. That's when you do actually end up doing horrific things, if you don't realize you have that inside you that has to be controlled, and it has to be not only controlled, it has to be fed, and if you deny it, if you deny that you have the capacity to do evil, then you're going to do evil and you're going to think it's good, right? You're going to do it righteously. And that's how fucking genocides happen, right? Most of the Nazis thought they were doing a good thing. They weren't, obviously. But because they were convinced that this was right, this was righteous, they ended up, slaughtering innocent people, So you got to know that it's kind of just, it's, it's giving a nod to the dark in everybody.
Or he could just be saying that.
No, I genuinely think he's like.
So if that's the case, what is his connection with people who have been in like prominent satanic metal bands like Slayer and Morbid Angel, where they suddenly go like 180, and or if they ever were that person to begin with, but like Pete Sandoval of Morbid Angel, like suddenly took on Christ and God. But here's one thing that I think might be for some of them. There's a band called Skeletal Earth. They're like just a grindcore band from Kentucky. And they're nothing. They're just like Ass Suck or those kind of bands where it's just grindcore, just thrashy grindcore.
Yeah.
Napalm Death kind of wannabe bands. I used to write to them. And the singer of the band, Travis, we'd trade CDs. You know, I had my distro at the time. I used to have their CDs. I played them on the radio here. Well, after a while, I didn't hear from him. I wrote him a letter again, and I got this letter back, and it was just all like this big, long letter. Like usually it's just a paragraph on a piece of paper. No biggie. Hey, what's up? Here's our new shit. See you later. 2-3 pages, like front and back of like handwritten stuff of like, oh my God, I got into a car accident and I survived. The doctor said I should have been killed. And when I was there, I felt him with me in his presence. And it was all this preaching about God. The dude had to know that I was not anything like that. He had to know.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like, okay, see ya. I think we're done now. And
oh, you know,
I think he abandoned the band. The band never like released anything after that I know of. But yeah, it was I found it unsettling that somebody could like immediately just have a 180 and just like immediately change who they are in their life like that based on an event at the same time. Whatever, if that works for him, that works for him, I guess. But
well, you know, like we kind of maybe touched on it like in our last conversation, where it's like, okay, like, you know, we both kind of think that there's something else out there, right? Like there's something.
Well, not like a supreme being or anything like that.
But we don't know. Like we just don't know what it is, right? We just sense that there's something else out there, right?
Well, I should clarify that I don't think there's evil spirits or like godly beings or anything like that.
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying that whatever we're seeing right now, whatever we're seeing as reality, what the world is, there's something beyond it, right? That we can't see, that can either be reached through death or through meditation or through psychedelics. You know what I mean? Like there's got to be something else other than what we're currently experiencing, right?
Well, again, yeah, I want to be clear that it's not like God or heaven.
I know you're clear on that. Like
I'm leaning towards extraterrestrial intelligence. That's what I'm saying. Like
whatever
kind of cosmic force that has an intelligence, like a different life form, not like a mystical being or anything like that. Not Jesus or Satan or anything like that.
Another, like an interdimensional traveler is a fucking mystical being, if you ask me. Like whatever.
Well, I'm just like we said last time. If I went to a primitive place with my cell phone, I would be like a mystical being because they wouldn't know what the fuck. But
right, exactly. And if you went to like some primitive place with your cell phone and fucking bandages and antibiotics and anesthesia
Absu CDs
and some Absu CDs and fixed someone who had like just fallen off a cliff, he would think you were God and he would tell everybody about you. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just saying, like, I think some of these situations, and maybe it's a delusion, or maybe it is some kind of extraterrestrial or interdimensional creature that has a connection with this individual that had somehow made its presence known in a very traumatic event, right? And then that's how they sort of interpret it. You know what I mean? Like they just, like, for whatever, like maybe that guy should have died, and he can't think of any other explanation. I mean, the human body is pretty incredible in what kind of abuse it can take and still survive.
Well, see, that's the thing, is I've been in situations where it's been like things that should have like maimed me didn't hurt at all. I shook it off because of the what would be the not aggression, but adrenaline. Yeah,
sure.
Adrenaline. Things like that, or like just things where you normally like if you're sick or you feel queasy, but if there's something really intense going on that you need to deal with, you brush it all aside and just it's gone, it's out of your body. Whereas if you're normally coming home from work, you're like, oh, I feel queasy, and you sit there all day, all night, you know, and whatever. But I'm thinking that some of these people aren't mentally equipped to like handle like just life. And so they have to ascribe anything, or not all of them, but just something to like, oh, there's a higher power. And some people need that, whatever, you know, I'm not shitting on you. You need that.
Oh yeah, ask
any
recovering alcoholic, man. If they didn't have something like that, you know, they'd be fucked.
Well, yeah, but if you survived a car wreck, then okay, if you think that, then go ahead and think that. If you think God was there with you, but to me, it's just like, well, you survived because you didn't get killed, or maybe you thought at the last minute to like jump out of the car, you know, when it was upside down before it blew up or something, you know, or whatever. But anyway, I forgot how did we get on this?
Oh, we were talking about like Moriah. We were talking about Absu, and then it got into Slayer.
Well, here's a story for you. Like a long time ago, and this is why a big reason why I joined the Church of Satan is because I think I may or may not have told you I had like nightmares for years because I was an 8-year-old kid with a fever one night, sick as a dog. My brother puts on The Exorcist. It's on network TV. I'm laying there with the family watching this movie. I don't know what it is.
Oh, God, dude, that movie's intense.
I was fucked up for life. I used to have nightmares of little girls with glowing eyes coming up a hill to get me, or just all that shit for years.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, shit. At that age, with the fever dreams on top of that, hell yeah.
So, you know, in Jaws, I've seen Jaws, Friday the 13th Part 2. I snuck in to see that. None of that. I mean, it was scary for a minute.
That's nothing.
It didn't stick with you. But that stuff,
there's a vibe to that.
Not because it was religious based, but because just the image of a little girl and the demonic voice and all of that, and just how it was hard it was to get rid of it. That shit freaked me out. But then years later, I would have like all these dreams like about it, and it was coming to a head because The Exorcist was re-released in theaters in the 90s with bonus footage, you know, the crab walk and all of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, as an adult, I'm like, why is Satan trying to take over the world? Because he's possessing a little girl who's vomiting and doing dumb shit. So, okay, yeah, that's going to get you somewhere. That's just stupid. And then I read a book by Anton LaVey where he said, Anton LaVey, being the founder of the Church of Satan, atheist organization, said that William Peter Blatty was a devout Christian, the guy who wrote The Exorcist, and that, in fact, that movie was pretty much Christian propaganda to scare people into going to church. When I looked at it from that perspective, through that lens, I was like, yeah, that's right. That is what it is. Like, why am I so scared of this? And I think I may have said, like, I used to have dreams after I read that about these exorcist girls that were trying to get me, but then all of a sudden I'd find myself at a circus, which Anton LaVey was a carny, an organ grinder, or a organ player, and lion tamer in a circus, or at least that's the widely held belief. So then I found myself in this setting involving Anton LaVey, or I had a silver trident in my hand one time, like a pitchfork, and I stabbed the girl in the head to get her to shut up. You know, so all this stuff. So I took control of my dream, lucid dreaming, and I don't have those dreams anymore. And it was thanks to Satanism. So how ironic is that, you know? And I'm just thinking, and I had another dream too before that. And it was the night I saw that commercial on TV at a party, a Halloween party, and I just happened to paint myself red like the devil and wear devil horns. That night, I had a brutal fucking nightmare. And I'll never forget it because it was the night that I dressed up like the devil. And I even had some red makeup smeared on the wall of my shower, like on this wooden thing on the outside that I couldn't get off. So every day I would see it for years. I'd think of that night. I had this dream where I got really hot while I was asleep and I couldn't move. And I had this dream that there was this like presence inside my mind that was laughing at me and mocking me. And I was turning this, I was in a church, like an old Gothic cathedral. And there was this cross. It was turning itself upside down. For some reason, I was trying to turn it back up, like fighting this evil force. And I was like, I could feel this mocking laughter in my mind. And I felt really hot, like really just hot, like when you're sick. And then I woke up and I was like, what the fuck was that? That was a fucking scary ass dream. But then I thought about it. I'm like, why would I why would any of that be happening, you know? But then I thought, okay, well, I just saw the Exorcist commercial not too long ago. I dressed up like the devil. You know, and that was then after that I started to have all the other things with Anton LaVey, like in my dreams, that kind of like 86 to all that stuff. So so I'm just saying, like, maybe, you know, it's all up to what goes on in your mind. If you take control of your mind, you can just I guess you can believe anything or disbelieve anything. So it kind of doesn't really get anywhere.
Yeah, you know, and if it, like, to me, like, you know, I don't have like any kind of chip on my shoulder with religious people at all. And in some ways, like, I kind of am a little envious because, you know, for a lot of people it feels there. I think it fills a certain need. Like there is a need to think that there's something outside of us that's bigger than us. I think it's natural, right? It's natural to want to worship something, and to, you know, and to almost think that, you know, there are certain things that are
I don't know if I would say it's natural. I wouldn't say it's natural, and that's why you have a church of Satan, because they're saying, well, we don't believe you should worship anything but yourself, and that's it. So
well, that's what I mean. I mean, but it's still steering a need to worship, right? Whether it's yourself or anything else, there's this need, right? And I mean, if there wasn't,
but is
honestly,
there?
If there wasn't like almost like a genetic predisposition, like almost like a biological mandate to pray to something or to what's the
well, look at here, think of it like this. Here's another one for you. I know what you're saying, I get what you're saying, but maybe if you look at it from the ancient aliens or scientific or quasi-scientific lens, maybe people.
Well, that's what I'm looking at it through. Like, I'm looking at it almost through a biological, like there's like an evolutionary.
Well, not biological. I'm just saying, like, if you believe in like alien intervention, like in human life, like if you think like the Anunnaki were here.
I don't know. That just made me think of, like, it'd be a funny skit, like Alien Intervention, where you're like sitting in the living room and like these aliens show up. They're like, "Look, man, you know, you've been you know, we care about you, and
you've been reading too much religious books, too many religious books. I mean, come on.
You know, you've been drinking a lot, and we just think.
But you never show yourselves to us.
Alien Intervention is the new TV series.
Okay, we'll have to keep that one on the back burner for a skit.
All
but
right.
What I'm saying is if you believe in, say, the Anunnaki legends by Zecharia Sitchin, he claims to have deciphered text like dated long before the Bible was written, cuneiform text.
Sumerian kind of cuneiform, yeah.
And they tell the exact story of the Bible, but long before the Bible ever came out, but in a little bit of a different way, with two brothers, Enki and Enlil. Enki was Satan, technically, and Enlil was Jesus Christ, basically. Enlil wanted followers, cut the people off from knowledge for their own good, quote unquote. Enki was like, nah, have sex, man. This is great. Try this. Look, here's what you do. And, oh, here's some information that you didn't know about. They're keeping it from you. You know, so they battle with each other. That's the story. And people were humans in the first place were made by these alien visitors as a workforce. They were made from primates, which is why there's a missing link. There's all that stuff. That's all ancient aliens, basically. So believe it or not, whatever. But what if there's like there's like a genetic programming, and also there's a Star Trek show, Deep Space Nine, where there's a race of aliens that's people. They're there. You can see them. They're shapeshifters, but they have like a whole dominion. That's what they're called, the Dominion. There's a warrior race, and there's like a bureaucrat race that serve them. And they created both those races genetically and like manipulate them. They're clones, but they have that invested fear in them and the need to worship in them, of them, the founders, which is the top race, the shapeshifters. Okay. What if it's something like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, it could be anything, but what I'm saying is whatever it is, it's there. Like, it's sort of programmed into us as a species. You know, and it causes a lot of problems because, you know, it gets misdirected all the time, right? you know, whether someone's worshiping God and thinks God tells them to do some horrible things, or whether they're worshiping fucking Cardi B, you know, and
what the hell?
You know what I mean? Like there's just this predisposition or this programming in us that we've had since birth to kind of to worship something or to, you know what I mean?
See, I've never had that though. I've never had that. Like I always thought church was stupid, even as a little kid.
Dude, I don't have it either, and that's why that's kind of why I get envious sometimes of people that do, you know, that have that sort of spiritual side, you know, and as long as they're kind of using it as a positive thing, you know, it's not like directing them to be.
Do you watch science fiction at all?
I read science fiction. I don't like watch. I like the old Star Treks, but I haven't watched like much of the new sci-fi.
Well, what you're describing right now is covered extensively through a scientific and religious viewpoint on both Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine being a Star Trek franchise, which actually was copying Babylon 5, who was written by J. Peter Straczynski, who wrote like Thor Ragnarok and various other movies and TV shows. So
I like Babylon.
Okay, Michael Straczynski. Sorry, what's that?
I like Babylon AD. Remember them?
No.
Bang goes the bells.
Oh yeah, it always has to come back to glam rock, doesn't
it?
Ladies and gentlemen, Kingdom Come is coming back.
They did a song on the RoboCop soundtrack. Kid Goes Well. It's a great song.
Well, anyways, if you watch those shows, they have plenty of stories. Okay, so Deep Space Nine, the space station, it's on a space station. It's by a wormhole, which is a passage through space, interspatial flexure, if you like, or Einstein-Rosen bridge.
Rosen bridge, yep.
So there's a passage.
Hawking-Rosen bridge.
No, not Hawking.
Wasn't Hawking part of the Rosen bridge?
Fuck no, Einstein. Fuck Hawking. He's full of shit.
Oh, the Einstein-Rosen bridge. Hawking's was.
Hawking is like a doomsayer. I don't know. I kind of don't respect him that much anymore. I used to think he was cool, but I don't know. I'm just like, okay, dude, you sound like the doomsayer now. Beware the Ides of March.
Yeah, like he couldn't even talk right.
Oh yeah, mumbles a lot. Well, anyways, these shows in the wormhole, there's an alien, and like the captain is chosen by these aliens, so it's very prophetic to the people that live on the nearby planet, the Bajorans. So it's all religious to them, but to the Starfleet people, it's all science. There's aliens who are nonlinear, they are nebulous in form. It's all explained scientifically, whereas the people who are the Bajorans, who actually have space travel and such, are very deeply religious. So it's a great show in that regard. Yeah. Plus, it has like the Dominion, who have those races of bureaucrats and warriors that are all programmed genetically to worship and fear their bosses, the founders.
Right.
So, and Babylon 5 is much the same. There's a lot of that in Babylon 5 as well, where you just kind of can't really. And X-Files too. X-Files is like that. You can look at it from either way and say, oh, this was God, or oh, that was just a scientific occurrence of this or that. So,
I like Babylon.
You should watch those shows. No, okay, all right, just stop with the damn. I'm going to come over there. What park are you in?
Babylon sister, shake it.
You don't hear that one much anymore. You hear Deacon Blues quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard that one in a while.
I hear it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, getting back to Absu, Proscriptor, the drummer of the band, is deeply, deeply magical, very into the occult. Everything he does, his side projects, like solo stuff, everything is like that. So,
is it satanic or is it just it's called something different?
Not even close to being like Satan. It's like extremely
just magic, like witchcraft, or
well, it's magic, but I want to say chaos magic. I'm not. I can't remember. I mean, it kind of explores a little bit of everything, like Kabbalah, if I remember correctly. I'm not like the huge Absu fan. I like their music a lot, but they also there's also a band called Melechesh, who are from Israel, a black metal band.
I've heard of them.
And they're a great band, and actually Proscriptor of Absu plays drums on their first two records, and those are really good too. And they're very occult too, and they also sing about the Anunnaki and all of that. as if it were a part of their history, like it's the thing, you know. And it's
part of like the Semitic sort of
all the Sumerian stuff, but like the pyramids, but as it pertains with the to the Anunnaki arriving and coming to Earth, and you know, creating humans, like just from a black metal perspective. So it's a really interesting, one of the most unique black metal records I've ever heard. One of my favorites out of it.
Have you seen the video to
or first three albums, I should say, because there was a first album without him on it, but
so Morbid Angels, their last album, Kingdom of Disdain, there's a song called Garden of Disdain. I don't know if you ever seen the video of it.
No.
But the video is, I think it's totally based on the Anunnaki sort of mythos.
See, now there's another band, Morbid Angel. As at first glance, you would think, okay, well, they're satanic. They have a pentagram, an upside-down cross, but after a few albums, they seem to get that out of their system, and they seem to go Lovecraftian, and then after that, they seem to go into like a more satanic LaVeyan perspective of just pure atheism and hedonism, and then after that, they just kind of go off the deep end of just like the horror, it seems like, or maybe
Well, I read an interview with Steve Tucker about the last album, you know, and his lyrical concepts are more like the kind of the ancient ones kind of thing, and then like sort of that cosmic horror style, which is cool. I think that's cool. But back to Absu, what I was going to say, one of the most surprising tracks on that album,
Stone of Destiny.
No.
No,
I
thought you'd love that one.
There's the one about Cold Quiet. She cried Cold Quiet, I think is what it's called. What I think it should have been Cold Lake, but no, there's a song. It's a short song. It's called Bron, B-R-O-N, and it's just like one of the most beautiful acoustic just a little acoustic piece that was like surprising. It was pretty and it was happy. Like it wasn't even like, you know how like there's dark.
Well, they're not about like dismal, dark, depressing, doom, death, and destruction. I mean, that's not what occultism is really about. That's the misconception you have, first of all. It's definitely on the darker side of life, but only as it pertains to Christian people who everything is not what they like is evil and dark, which really right now it's the other fucking way around unless you're aren't paying attention. But those guys, I mean, occultism is occultism, and like they have a lot of really good music like that. They have an album called the third album, The Third Storm of Sithral, or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. Beginning of it's a really nice, really long, like really beautiful acoustic intro. It's like kind of a little bit of a medieval sounding thing all of a sudden, and then they just come on with this great ripping black thrash track. Really? And the vocalist will sometimes wax like King Diamond. He'll do a really high, like falsetto King Diamond kind of shrill, and it's really good. It's interesting. They're an interesting band for sure.
All right, you might hear a little bit.
I'm hearing a lot. I'm hearing airplanes, cars.
Well, I'm actually
clicks.
I'm actually moving because it's starting to rain, so I got to get under some.
Oh my God! Why don't you just go on your porch like you did before?
I should have. Huh?
Or is that too loud?
It's probably too loud. Here, I'm under. It's not raining heavily, so if I find a good little tree here.
It's probably cold outside too, isn't it? Getting cold.
Feels good.
So, anyways, Abzu started out as pretty much a death metal band. Their first demo or two were like the deep gravelly vocals, kind of like Grave. But they had like the music was like more a little bit heavier, tuned down, and just right after that they did 2 demos. Then they had an album come out on Osmos Productions from France, which is pretty much the premier black metal label at the beginning of the black metal scene. They had Enslaved, Immortal, like all the black metal bands were on there that were important, aside from Mayhem maybe and Emperor. But Absu stuff came out and it was pretty good. It was just like it is now. It was just more of like thrash than anything, but very, very black.
Yeah, so it's good to know that, because like I was actually going to ask you if that, like, because obviously you referred that band to me because you knew it'd probably resonate with me. I'd probably like it.
Well, musically, they're great. I knew you'd like that. I'm surprised. Did you like Stone of Destiny, the song? That's like the most noticeable song on there to me, I think, just because of the mid-tempo and the double bass and like the crazy vocals. I mean, what did you think of that one?
Yeah, I mean, they all had kind of like a very, I mean, I'm not saying they all sounded the same, but a lot, the songs had a very, sonically had a similar quality, because, I mean, it was just really clear, like the guitars were very clear sounding to me, which was good, you know, like obviously very talented. But like I said, I mean, it was that acoustic number that sort of nailed it for me. And I don't really like acoustic music or anything like that, but it was almost like a perfect little kind of breakup, you know, because you do have this like really dark, intense music, and then just this uplifting, like major. It was like in a major key, like it was happy sounding, like acoustic guitar interlude. I was just like, to me, it was like really kind of showcased sort of their kind of what they're capable of, you know. So I am interested in exploring. I'll probably listen to all of it now. Listen to this.
Yeah, you won't be disappointed. You'll have to consult with me, because after a few of their albums, there's a bunch of EPs, but there's a couple of albums. But then the last two records he did, it's a totally different band except for the drummer, and they're not bad. They're still good, but they're a little bit more thrashy, a little less pretty. But they're still a good band. So,
well, I'd imagine like whoever he got to replace the guys on that album, I mean, they have to be able to pull off that material. Like, it can't be hacks.
Well, they did, but they also didn't play like all the floral, like acoustic stuff that I know of. I mean, they those albums, those last two albums, there's one called just Absu, and there's another one called Apzu, APZU. It's all occult stuff, all of it. And
what is Absu? What's the origin of that name? Do you know?
I believe it's all Sumerian or Mesopotamian, but Absu, if I remember my occultism correctly, it was a river or a lake or an ocean or something to do with water, like Leviathan. I didn't research too much of it. You know, okay. It's just, it was interesting to a point, but after a while. But if you've ever read an interview with Proscriptor of Absu, he speaks that way, like everything. Like, well, you might say that I am thrice on the night of the Nindanaga and all this other stuff. And you're like, whoa, wait, what? And I used to write to some of those guys too. I used to write to Equimanthorn, their guitarist, because
the one on the album.
Yeah, and they're from Texas. They're from just outside of Dallas, a little place called Plano.
That's interesting, because that little acoustic number does have a little bit of like almost like a Texas blues sort of vibe to it.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. I mean,
just because they're from Texas, they're playing Texas blues, huh?
Well, no, it had some of those sort of.
I heard Mickey Gilley in the background. I know I did.
Yeah.
You know who Mickey Gilley is?
No, I do not.
That's a very prominent local Texan where I lived. He had a bar called Gilley's right down the street from my house in Urban Cowboy. The John Travolta movie was filmed there when I lived there.
Oh.
So yeah, Gilley's, and that's where the movie Urban Cowboy takes place, is in his bar. But anyways, you were saying it has a Texan blue feel.
Yeah, but not overbearing, because if it was, I wouldn't like it. You know.
Well, actually, it is funny you say that, because there's the later Absu, after those guys left, there was another guitarist from the newer incarnation who hit me up to be on Slaughterhouse Records, and he had a band called the Black Moriah Project or something like that.
That actually sounds familiar too. But
they marketed themselves as Black Texas Death or something. They embraced the Southern Texas thing.
Yeah, why not?
It sounds just like Absu. It's just like really hard thrashy, like really good played thrash, but black. And we never came to an agreement with anything. I don't know whatever happened to him. Sounds like they disappeared. I don't know if they released anything or not, if they did, but it was interesting because they were wearing cowboy hats in the band photo, and they were occult, but like Texan, which is kind of interesting if you consider David Vincent's current.
I was going to say exactly, like that's kind of Vincent thing.
So yeah, I mean, it was cool. I was going to put him out. But I'm like, look, dude, I'm not like a big label. I'm a little guy here in my bedroom. I can do like a CD and put it out, and that's about it, you know, and do some online promo. Like he wants all this stuff, like money and touring. I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it was interesting because they also marketed themselves as Black Texas occultism or something like that. So they had all three, you know, Black Texas thrash occult or something. And so you're not checking off the Marc.
Pardon? So they have like 3 albums out. Black Moriah.
Oh, do they?
Let me just check.
Never hear about it.
I'm looking at their YouTube channel.
I thought Seeing the Mist was one of the labels, maybe, or maybe not. I don't know.
Black Moriah, just a taste. So I'm not listening to it. I'm just kind of like previewing a video with the sound off. But I'm pretty sure this is them. Singer's got like dreadlocks. Or does he?
He's got what?
Dreadlocks? The singer. But that definitely, dude, this is definitely them. It's got to be them. They look exactly like how you describe them to me. Like, it looks like Texas, like metal. I'm curious to hear what they sound like.
Yeah, the stuff he sent me, I don't know what I did with it, but it wasn't bad. It was just like Absu. It really was pretty.
I'm checking it out. Yeah, it's good. But it sounds like, kind of sounds like Motorhead. It's like a black metal Motorhead almost. So it does have that sort of, it has like a bluesy kind of vamp to it, but just fast, and you can hear the, you know, I mean, you heard a little bit of it. I don't want to get demonetized.
Well, I heard the stuff he sent me, so yeah, I mean,
that's good.
It sounds like Absu, like the later 2 Absu records, and stands the reason why, because he was on, I believe, the first one, or at least he toured with them, or I can't remember what function he served, but anyway, yeah, I sent you that mostly with the song Stone of Destiny in mind, but I figured you'd like the whole album because those guys are not slouches musically nor lyrically. So
no, it was really tight, and like I said, the production was excellent on it. Like I'm like it'll sound like a Scott Burns mix.
Oh God, doesn't even sound like that.
No, but the production was really good. I'd say like my favorite song would have been, I have to bring it up here. It was actually, I think it was track 4, Menenen. Menenen. I don't know. And then She Cries the Quiet Lake. But I think it was, like I said, it should have been She Cries the Cold Lake.
There is no Cold Lake. You have to forget Cold Lake. And let me just tell you something, just back on the topic of Cold Lake for a minute. Celtic Frost has re-released their entire discography as a vinyl or a CD box set, colored vinyl, not including Cold Lake or Vanity Nemesis. There you have what the band thinks of those 2 albums.
They didn't add Cold Lake?
No, they hate that record. I told you, they don't recognize that as one of their records. They want to bury it.
Man. It's an, like, whether you hate it or love it, it's a landmark album for them. You know what I mean? It marks kind of a turning point, sort of, you know, all right, what are you going to do now? You know what I mean? Like, you know, and they could have either leaned into it. It would have been interesting if they would have kept going that direction, to be honest.
But you don't get my point, though, is you're looking at it from the perspective of music and a musical career and the things they did. What you have to look at it with a band like Frost is you have to look at it like it has to have all of their thrash and their dark stuff. If you just suddenly have Cold Lake in it, it's like you paint your house black because you want to have this like inner sanctum occult thing, but there's one wall that's pink. And it's distracting. Everybody's trying to get into the mode of this occult ritual, but there's a pink wall with like a picture of like a fat yellow dress on it. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, no, you got to take that.
You know, and I've said it before. Like, I actually, when I hear Cold Lake next to, you know, say like even like I'm not as super familiar with their discography, but like even like, you know, say Return to Megatherion or something like that. If you play them back to back, sonically,
to Megatherion,
whatever, but sonically.
Oh, see right there, your dismissal, casual dismissal of the greatest Celtic Frost album.
Right. It's kind of like your casual dismissal of Jesus Christ. But what I'm saying is
he
like,
deserves it.
He's a good guy. But he sonically, Cold Lake is not that far removed from Return to Megatherion.
To Megatherion.
Whatever.
And sonically, only up to a point because it's one of the same guys playing in the band. But apart from that, it is very different.
The sound is pretty close. And I would even say like the singing isn't too far off. It's still kind of raspy.
No, not even. He's doing this whiny thing on Cold Lake, trying to be like a little less aggressive. Trust me, you're going to lose this argument. You go to any black metal show and try and argue that, you'll at least get argued with, if not beat up. So I would advise you to drop that right now.
This is not even an argument. It's an observation, dude. It's just saying like the timbre of his voice is still like it's still Tom Warrior, dude. And
it's still him, but he's trying to be something different.
But it's not.
When we talked about this, and he says it in the book, Are You Morbid, which you need to read if you'd ever come meet me somewhere. Is he was not getting it that he was this icon of music, and he didn't accept it. He was too humble. He's being humble. Like, no, everybody in the world was like, no, you're a metal god. Fucking accept it. And he did. That's why Cold Lake is 86, because we all hate that record, and he doesn't like it. It killed his career. Now he gets that he's a metal god, whether he wants to be or not. He is that person, but with that career of Celtic Frost, not including Cold Lake. Someday, maybe he'll put that and Vanity and Nemesis out in their own little box set and I'll buy it probably.
It should, yeah.
But it doesn't belong with all the other records. It just doesn't, you know. And I know you as a musician think that, but you got to understand, like, from the career-wide spanning spectrum of this band and what they mean and how important they are to dark metal and thrash and black metal. That album has no place.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
And this is like Kiss. Look at Kiss again. Like, when you look at their albums, you think of Destroyer, Love Gun, Rock and Roll Over, Alive, Hotter Than Hell. But no one ever says, I like Unmasked, except for you, of course. But
and it's funny because when I do think of Kiss, I think of Unmasked, I think of Animalize, and I think of Look It Up. That's pretty much it.
Well, of course, and this is what's funny is because this is why this chemistry on this show is so good, because you come in from the opposite angle than I.
You can add Creatures of the Night to that too.
Did you listen to Creatures of the Night?
I love that album. Yeah, it's great.
Have you heard it?
The album. Yeah.
I was under the impression you hadn't heard it, or at least for a long time.
It wasn't for a long time, but I listened to it fairly recently, like after I talked to you, and I forgot, like, one of my favorite songs Kiss ever wrote is on that album, which is, I have to bring up the track listing.
I Still Love You, the ballad?
Yeah, it's I Still Love You, the ballad.
And let me guess, you have the glam rock version. It has the no makeup version of the band with Bruce Kulick on the cover, right? And Gene Simmons' ass on the back?
I don't know that. It's Saint and Sinner.
Yeah, that's a good song by Gene Simmons. This is an interesting thing, is Creatures of the Night is considered a no makeup album as well, because
No, okay, I'm sorry, it's Keep Me Coming.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
That's my favorite song. One of my favorite songs they've ever written.
If Eric Carr ever waxed as John Bonham, that's the song right there. That is John Bonham on steroids.
Well, and it's to me, it's like one of those. It's also a song that Paul Stanley doesn't get enough credit for his riffs, dude. Like, he writes just some great fucking riffs. And the reason I love that song is, okay, so it would be my second favorite Kiss song, and my first favorite Kiss song of all time is Get All You Can Take off Animalize. If you play
I actually like that. That's actually my favorite song on Animalize.
if you play those two songs together, there's kind of a similar vibe, like
oh yeah, totally
riffing vibe, and I just love those kind of riffs, and yeah, dude, those. So yeah, that song "Keep Me Coming" is probably, like I said,
but Vinnie Vincent
might be as good as "Get All You Can Take," but it's in that sort of, it's up there. It's like in that ballpark for sure.
Yeah, that's actually a really good song. That song doesn't get enough credit off of Animalize. It's always Heaven's on Fire. I'm like, that's my least favorite song on that record. My least favorite. I don't even really like that song, to be honest.
My least favorite song on that record is probably, I don't know.
Some of the Gene songs are pretty crappy on there too, but I mean, they're still okay. But
I don't know, dude, because I love Burn Bitch Burn.
Well, Burn Bitch Burn is good. I love that one too, if not for the silly lyric, but it is a good, fast, heavy song.
But even While the City Sleeps, like lyrically, like it's actually a very cool song. Like
I like that one too.
No, that album, I would say, I guess I'd have to agree. Either Heaven's on Fire or Lonely as a Hunter are my least favorite ones on that.
But it's funny because not Animalized, but Creatures of the Night, they had Ace's picture on the front. It was all Vinnie Vincent mostly on that album, no Ace at all. But then they re-released it like a decade later with Bruce Kulick in Kiss, and he doesn't play on that at all. And Eric Carr, Gene, and Paul, and there's no makeup on them, and the back cover is a close-up of Gene Simmons' ass in tight leather pants with the song listing over it. And everybody's like, why the fuck did you release that? Like, why not just at least leave that cover alone, or put it out with fucking Vinnie Vincent? Like, what is with you guys? I'm reading a book right now. I kind of gave up on it for a while, but it's called Kiss Behind the Mask. It's not like an official one.
I was going to say, like, that's an unauthorized book.
But it talks about that album in there. It's all about Kiss with no makeup. It's none of the Kiss with makeup. It's everything post-makeup career.
Oh, I'd love to read that one.
Oh, I know you would. If you'd get off your ass and come meet me at the restaurant, I'd give you these books to read. God damn it.
All right. Well,
apparently you're too busy worshipping
no, listen, man.
Your Sumerian gods with Absu.
You're just, like I said, dude, man, I'm at a point in life where you're lucky that I can fucking crawl out of bed in the morning. But that's neither here nor there.
I thought I was the reason for you living.
Barely.
Wow.
No, you're the bane of my existence, man. Every Saturday night, like, fuck, I gotta talk to you. No, I'm just kidding, dude.
I know you're so excited, I can tell.
But so they were talking about, was there like a particular part of that book that jumped out?
Oh, I was just saying it brings up it covers. I can't remember why they did it now, but it covers why they put the no makeup version out, and then years later they reneged on that and put out the original cover, the blue cover with Ace's picture on it, which it still wasn't Ace, but at least that was the original cover. It's like they just don't want to give Vinnie Vincent the clout, maybe they're afraid if he gets any credit, he'll go to his head and he'll go crazy again. I don't know, but.
Dude, I would love to hear, like, I don't know, dude.
But that album is actually, here's another thing. I forgot to tell you this. You don't have Hulu?
I want to be on Vinnie Vincent's side, but.
Well, I mean,
it sounds like he's off the rails, man.
I know you don't have Hulu, but right now there's an A&E, the A&E channel. They did a Kiss documentary, and I watched it. It's just your usual Kiss bullshit where they have their own narrative they want you to hear. Mm-hmm. Gene and Paul, Peter and Ace didn't want to take part of it, and it's all just Peter and Ace did this. I'm like, okay, fuck you guys. But it talks about Creatures of the Night, and they actually make the point I made a couple of shows ago, is that they were doing disco and kind of lost their minds while everybody else around the world was doing heavy metal, was just coming out, and they kind of missed the boat. And then they came out doing glam, that they weren't the trendsetters anymore. They were just being a glam band like everybody else. So they kind of just disappeared like for a while. But Creatures of the Night didn't really get the clout that it deserves because it was such a great album, but everybody just gave up on it because of Unmasked, Dynasty, The Elder. And they're really harsh on The Elder, too. I'm like, The Elder's,
that's
metally speaking, it's more metal than the previous two, Unmasked and Dynasty.
Oh, sure.
That's not to say I don't like those records. Dynasty is easily one of my favorite Kiss records. It's a good, solid rock album. Mm-hmm. There's one disco song on it. That's it. And I like that song, too. I mean, come on.
Sure. Dude, a good song is a good song. Like, I mean,
I was a kid in 1979. I remember that.
I was gonna say, yeah, look,
like,
yeah,
I remember riding my bike, going to the store to buy Empire Strikes Back, bubblegum cars, going to see Star Wars in the theater, and that song on the radio. Life was great. 79. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I had that poster that came with the record on my wall. I mean, all of those songs were so good. But Creatures of the Night does not get the credit it deserves. It's such a heavy, from A to Z, even the Paul Stanley love ballad, I Still Love You, which is a really long song, almost 6 minutes plus. Great album, super heavy. Eric Carr, in effect. Vinnie Vincent, in effect. Gene Simmons and Paul, like, got the disco out of their fucking system.
Dude, and let's dude, when Gene is on, like, vocally, dude, there's no one gnarlier. Like, he's got such a cool, aggressive, like, swinging dick voice, don't you think? Just
like Rock and Roll Hell, like, that's kind of a boring song, but his vocals on there are just great because they're so deep and dark, and he's just like the song material, like the lyrics. And that's a song that Bryan Adams helped him write, as well as War Machine, the two heaviest songs on the record almost.
Yeah.
Bryan Adams, Summer of '69.
And like I said, like, I mean, his vocal delivery on Burn Bitch Burn, and I that's actually why it makes one of my favorite songs, you know, because it's like kind of this rhythmic, and it's just cocky as all hell, you know, but at the same time kind of growly and sinister, you know. It's perfect. So yeah.
Oh shit, Gene Simmons just texted me on my phone and said stop talking about us. Shit.
Oh, cease and desist. That should be the time. If they ever do another album, they should just call it Cease and Desist.
Well, so as it pertains back to Absu,
yeah.
Did you listen to any of the other ones I sent you, or just the Absu so far?
Just the Absu.
I see. So yeah,
they're dude,
they're like no other band. They're very unique, like in so many different ways, musically, lyrically.
I'm actually surprised, like I don't really hear them. I mean, I know I've heard of them a lot, you know, in black metal discussions and, you know, reading about black metal and all that. But I'm surprised they weren't as, like, almost as big as, like, say, like a Morbid Angel or something. You know what I mean?
I don't know. It's probably because, number one, they were on a French label, Osmos Productions, so they got great distribution around the world, except for here in America. And that's always how it goes. But Morbid Angel had the benefit of Earache doing the Combat Records thing, Earache doing Columbia Records, and then Morbid Angel left to go to a bigger label on their own. So, and plus they're probably
Probably a little more like just accessible, like as far as a look.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're slightly more mainstream in a way, I guess, lyrically. Like Absu is just way too left field occult for some people.
And visually too, you know, they didn't do the corpse paint thing. They're all like good looking hunks.
You know? And they did corpse paint in the beginning, and then after a while it got to be just like the Celtic Frost black eyeliner, and then they just stopped altogether. But they also are like very much, they are into the occult stuff. They're not posing. They're into that shit. They know what they're talking about and they practice it. They have another brand. What's that?
I was going to ask you about, like, are you familiar with, okay, so there's two songs on there. One is called Spell 186, I think, and then Spell 187 or something. Like, I guess there's actually some spells on that album that I listened to.
Well, yes and no. I mean, they also like treat everything they do as a spell, but then again, that is in fact a magic mode of thinking. Like everything you do is a magical act. That's chaos magic. So, I mean, like I said, from that regard, that's exactly what they're doing, is performing magic through their music. So everything's a ritual.
These songs specifically say spell. I was wondering if they're from a particular grimoire or what. You know?
Well, I don't know. I haven't read all that stuff. I mean, I'm sure other people know, but I wouldn't they aren't the kind of band who would just say something like that, and you know, or like 4-string necro strangler or shit like that. That's not what they're about. So so anything they're doing, it has intent and it has purpose. But they have another project, or they did, like years ago, back in the 90s, called Equimanthorn, which is one of many bands with that name back during the black metal thing in the 90s. But it was not black metal. It was like occult ritual music. And I heard this. Yeah, it was just like kind of like that stuff I described to you a while ago. It was like just like flutes, organs, chants, maybe a mandolin here or there, like no guitar, no drums, no music, no rock structure, no vocals per se, spoken word here and there.
Okay.
But they had that band that caught my attention because I'm into that kind of stuff, and there were a lot of occult. The ones I told you about, there was a guy in Austria that dug up graves and made instruments from human bones. There were a band in Italy that recorded in crypts and caverns underneath Italy's city streets. So I wrote to Equitant, who is the guitarist of Absu. And I was like, hey, man, what's going on? I love Absu, but you did this Equimanthorn thing. I'm really into this. It reminds me of these two bands. I'm like, are you into them? And I sent him a tape, and he's like, oh, yeah, I know who they are. And we talked for a minute and, lost track, I guess, because they went on tour and just never really talked again. But they were into that stuff. I mean, it's pretty rare that you meet people who know about that. I mean, now it's easy because it's all over the internet. Like everybody posts everything on YouTube and Bandcamp. And so I'm not sure why they all left the band. I think they just moved on. Like, I guess they'd run its course for them, but Proscript remained in and had new guys. And they played at Metro Bar like years ago, and I saw them there.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of the Metro, so it's Revocation, Alluvial, Necropsy, and I forgot what the third band was, or the fourth band was. Kind of a tech. They're like tech metal. I don't know if you dig them. Revocation's getting pretty big right now, though, and they're kind of a proggy death metal band. But it's gonna be a good show.
I don't know anything about any of those bands.
Yeah, I would check out. I think the ones you would like on that bill is, you might like Revocation. They might be a little too techy, but I think they're not so tech that they sound sterile. You know what I mean? It's another band. I'll let you know. But the other band that's opening up for them is sort of like that cosmic horror type stuff. Like they reminded me of Demilich, if you've heard them, from Finland.
What about them?
That's the band that's opening for Revocation. One of the bands reminds me of Demilich. And I don't know if you were ever into them, but I think you would.
I had their album, their only album that they've ever had out that everybody thinks is such a classic. I'm like,
it's amazing.
This is just like really just boring death metal to me, but like I know their song titles. What?
You serious?
Yeah. What?
This is another situation. Yeah, I got into Demilich because they didn't sound like anything I've ever heard.
What did they do that was so different? All I heard was like just death metal with deep vocals. That's all I heard. Their song titles were crazy. Like they had really weird lyrics and song titles. That was interesting, but the musically, I didn't hear anything that was really.
Musically, it was, and that's the thing that kind of blew my mind. It was like nothing I'd ever heard, like from death metal. Like it was sort of a breakthrough album for me. It's just twisted, sick, ugly sounding music. It almost has like a psychedelic vibe, like because they're not using like that really sharp, razor sharp guitar sound. It's almost like this. It's weird for me to say it, but it's almost like a gritty sort of unprocessed sounding guitars. Almost like it could have been recorded in the 70s. Like it's trippy to me. Like, yeah, dude, I don't know. Like, listen to that one again, dude. I think they they're weirder than Immolation for sure. I mean, like
nothing against Demolition, but like, since that was the band that we were kind of like, you know, at this point satirically saying is generic, but Demilich is out there, dude. It's weird stuff. Yeah, you need to pull it up pull up just that the 16th or the 14th teeth of the third and fourth dimension, yet to be unnamed. Well, in one, the vocals are crazy deep. Like, they were like some of the deepest vocals I've heard up until that point. But no, dude, they're nobody sounds like them to me, except for this band that's opening for Revocation, because I think a lot of bands are finally getting influenced by Demilich, like by that one album. They're discovering it, and I think that's because to me Demilich kind of really perfected the cosmic horror kind of death metal sort of vibe. Yeah, dude. No, they're not generic at all. Out of all the bands, like serious that we've talked about, they're probably the least generic death metal band I think I've ever heard.
Well, I don't know. I'll have to listen to it again, but really, to be honest with you, like, as I recall that record, it was the exact same death metal I've heard from a billion other bands. It was just heavy chugga, heavy riffs, heavy drumming, heavy deep vocals. That's all. The only thing that was different to me was the song titles. Not chugga, but you know what I mean, just heavy tuned down guitars. But to me, it was just like average death metal. I mean, the lyrics and song titles were out there, but musically, it just didn't grab me. And I remember everybody was giving me shit back then, too. Like, you don't like this? I'm like, it's just death metal. It's the same old shit. Like, look at these song titles. I'm like, yeah, the song titles are interesting, but the music's just not. It's just the same old shit.
So it was another situation.
I'll have to listen to it again. I'll seek it out.
Other people real? Well, no, I don't want to be someone who's because dude, that makes us not like bands, right? When people just get up our ass about like, why don't you like it, you know?
Well, no, in this case, I want to hear what you're talking about. I want to hear what you're referring to in this case. Like I said, you got to remember, when I did my radio show, this is when this was, when I heard them, I had the CD. This is in the 90s, when there's so much death metal coming out that I heard everything you could do with death metal and black metal. So anything that didn't immediately like sound different, I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever, I'll skip through it. I'll play it on the radio every now and then, and it's kind of didn't really give it much of a listen. And I did that with Immolation and Carcass Heartwork. And now I went back and listened to Heartwork. Mm-hmm. Not my favorite record in the world, but I do think I gave them short shrift all these years, because it's like a stripped down version of Necroticism, which is faster, leaner, a little more technical. Like, nothing wrong with that. Not my favorite by them. But I think I was a little harsh on it. And in Immolation, too, I listened to their new record. It was really good. Heavy death metal, not quite as wanky as I was expecting it to be. And I'm not sure where I got that impression. Maybe just from previous records I've heard. And they are Americans. So they do solos, and lots of them. But that album was pretty good. So maybe I'll go back and listen to them. But again, not my particular chosen style of death metal, but the Demilich thing, I remember that, and I was just like, I'm not really getting why everybody loves this band and thinks they're so classic. But then again, maybe I just skipped through it and just kind of played shit. And
and I think probably once again, like, I'm that dude. I'm totally that way, where like certain people will cause me to just kind of just reject a band, you know, because I'm just like, shut the fuck up about it. Like, I get it. So the other band I was talking about that's opening is they're called Inoculation. So if you want to spin them too, but yeah, I don't know. Give Demilich another chance. I think somebody kind of irritated you to the point, which is understandable, dude. Like, I can't deal with that.
Well, check
this out, dude.
What
do you think? Like, I I saw a tour flyer. So like Merciful Fate and Behemoth are touring. It's like a big kind of festival show in Mexico. And Striper's opening. I thought that was kind of interesting.
What?
Yeah, man. Striper opening up for Merciful Fate. How do you like that? And Behemoth.
Well, I don't know. Adam from Behemoth is always getting into trouble, so maybe he's trying to atone now with his peers in Poland.
Yeah, well, I just think metal is once again it's the most inclusive genre. I just read some kind of bad news now.
What?
I don't know how I feel about this. So Enuff Z Nuff is putting out a new album.
Oh, that's terrible.
Well, it's not that. I love the idea of Enuff Z Nuff, but Chip Z Nuff is now the singer.
Who?
That ain't right. Chip Z Nuff.
I don't know what any of that means.
He shouldn't be like Donnie V is the original singer for Enuff Z Nuff. He's the one that wrote all the great songs, but he's not in this band anymore. It's just Chip Z Nuff.
Oh, you don't know how you feel about that, huh? Well, it should be included in their records, just like Cold Lake, huh?
Well,
that's what I thought. Oh, different story now, huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Whatever. Maybe Cold Lake should be included in the Enuff Z Nuff catalog.
Yeah, it's more like one of their records than it is.
They should just let another band put that album out in their own discography if they hate it so bad.
Have you heard? Okay, we go with Cold Lake all the time. Have you heard the follow-up to that, Vanity Nemesis?
No.
You probably heard selected tracks because there's a collection of song album called Parched with Thirst. I think you have that.
Yes, I have heard that. Yeah.
There's songs from that on there, and they're in that style somewhat. It's like more of a rock base, but they're a little bit more
still kind of okay. So they're trying
it's
to
a little different. It's not trying to be glam like Cold Lake, but it's really different. But it's still not old Celtic Frost, but it's definitely not Cold Lake either. So that one's kind of a unique album on its own, and that one never really gets talked about at all. And that one's got some good songs on it. It's like a dark Guns N' Roses, maybe you could say. Maybe you should check that one out. Vanity Nemesis. That was the last Frost album. I can't remember what year that would have been, like 89 or 90, somewhere in there. And then, yeah, probably 89. I think they didn't put out anything again until Monotheist in whenever that was, 2005 or 6 or something, 2008. So, but I did buy that Celtic Frost box set. It's called Dance Macabre. It's just that's what the band thinks of it. That's there you go. But then in Bathory, if you look at Bathory, they have the Viking albums. He has like some rock-based stuff that he did. He has like some thrash stuff that's not black metalish, and where do you draw the line there? It's all the same guy.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Terrible, but
I never really, maybe I need to explore Bathory. Although,
you need to check out the solo stuff from Absu as well as the other Absu stuff. Each member had solo stuff. It's really interesting. It's not anything you might be expecting.
Huh.
So.
Well, I mean, like I said, I was really that like I said, that little acoustic thing was very unexpected. I mean, it was it wasn't surprising to have like an acoustic thing on a black metal, but it wasn't like this medieval, somber, kind of thing. It was like this really, like I said, almost uplifting, happy acoustic piece. It almost reminded me of like D, like on Ozzy's Blizzard of Oz. You remember that song, that little acoustic thing before it goes into Suicide Solution?
Vaguely, yeah. I'm not the biggest Ozzy fan, but
yeah, it's just like a pretty, or it actually reminds me of Midsummer Daydream, which was off Triumph's Thunder 7 album. A shtick, I guess. I mean, it's just naturally that we butt heads, which is cool. I just don't ever want it to be something that sounds intentional. Like, oh, here they are. That's just them being the opposites. Like if we're on board with like the same thing, man, we're cool. Like we can agree.
Well, we did. That's what I'm saying. I listened to Carcass and Immolation, right?
Yeah.
I gave them credit where credit was due.
Yes, you did.
I still think Cold Lake is a piece of shit.
Yeah. You can't. I mean, I haven't listened to it in years, so maybe I might pop it in. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it is shit.
Oh, you are totally wrong. There's no doubt. But
well, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, if it was created by a different band, would it be good? Like, since I have no like emotional like investment in Celtic Frost, like if it was just like any other band, like if it was a Dangerous Toys album, would I like it? Or is it the fact that it's coming from a certain band? Is that what makes it shitty? Expectations. And now,
But anyways, yeah. If the easiest things for topics, I sent you some records I think you'll like, and then you can, if you want me to listen to something, I can. Otherwise, I've got those books you should read and the Lords of Chaos movie. If you've read the book, then the movie is just a breeze. You'll enjoy it, and we can talk about it for like probably 3 shows worth, I think, or more.
Oof.
So there's all that, but
okay.
You can borrow the DVD too. I have that.
I don't have a DVD player.
Oh, Jesus Christ, you digital moron.
I know.
God damn, Jeff Bezos must love you.
He probably
that pencil neck, melon-headed, big-eared jughead fucking loves you.
I don't think he loves anybody but himself. Let's not kid ourselves here.
I think he loves himself too much.
I know, exactly.
Fuck that guy.
It is weird. I'm looking at electric guitars on Walmart.com. When did they start selling?
On what?
Walmart.
Walmart?
You could order an electric guitar from Walmart. And they're not really that bad. Like, there's some actually decent kind of imports, like, I think I saw Dean. I don't know, it's a Schecter. But, yeah. Anyways. Walmart.com. Sponsors Metally Challenged.
Oh, hell no.
Enter code challenged at the checkout to get 10% off your order. Anyways. I'm just practicing our ad reads when we start when those sponsors start knocking down our door.
Oh yeah, well they're going to be as soon as you listen to Bethlehem.
All right. I like Christmas stuff.
No
you
shit.
don't understand, dude. I've got like self-esteem issues and stuff. Nothing I do is ever good enough.
That's why I'm yelling at you to do all this stuff, because you have to follow my lead.
All right. I'm not going to join the Satanic Church or the Church of Satan.
Well,
not yet, anyways.
Don't have to.
I don't know.
Nothing I do or I am I got from them. So.
Oh, well then, what do you need them for?
Other than just like maybe the banishing of the Exorcist dream, but even that wasn't really from them. Really, it was from me.
Oh, good.
I mean, really, why go to church? I mean, you could stay home and pray. Why do you have to go somewhere else and do it? It's
exactly. You can be just as close to Satan and in your own room as you would in some stuffy old satanic church.
Well, there's not a satanic church. I'm talking about like Christ Church, but
that's my like. I'm.
So what books do you want me to bring? Like Rob Halford and KK and Celtic Frost, or just one at a time, or what?
I mean, bring me the one that you'd want me to read, and I'll read it that weekend. And
well, I know that you'll read the Judas Priest books. I know you'll read those. So I mean, I've read them now. I don't need them for a while.
But in some ways, like, the Celtic Frost one might even be, but it might be more interesting. Like, he's got kind of more of a weird story, don't you think?
Probably,
like,
yeah.
As far as like the whole trajectory of him is probably very different. Like, because I've read, you know, like I know, like, you know, the Judas Priest ones are going to be great, but they're going to be like, I was born, you know, to a poor family. My dad was a fabricator at a shop in Birmingham. You know what I mean?
That's exactly how both of them were.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, it was how, you know, it's how the Bruce stick. That's how all those British ones are. You know, and then, you know, I begged my parents for the electric guitar, and they bought me a shitty acoustic that I couldn't play. And then some other kid, you know, in the neighborhood had an electric, and I wanted one. And da 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 da. Tale as old as time.
So, Celtic Frost, Tom Warrior's book it is.
Alrighty.
Well, okay, I guess I'm going to stop recording now.